Dzień dobry. Witam serdecznie Państwa na panelu Amerykańskiej Izby Handlowej. Jesteśmy bardzo zaszczyceni wieloma znamienitymi gośćmi, którzy do nas dołączyli dzisiaj na to spotkanie. Od razu powiem, że nasze 1,5 godziny będzie trochę kombinacją alpejską ze względu na różne nakładające się wydarzenia, a chcieliśmy móc ugościć wszystkich przyjaciół i ekspertów Amerykańskiej Izby Handlowej w Polsce. Zaczniemy od około 20-minutowej rozmowy z ministrem Michałem Baranowskim i z Markiem Brzezińskim, który dzisiaj reprezentuje sektor prywatny. Jest, jak Państwo bardzo dobrze wiedzą, byłym ambasadorem Stanów Zjednoczonych w Polsce. And with that, I'm going to switch to English. I can only promise you, Mark, I didn't say anything offensive in my first 2 minutes.
I got most
This
of
was
it, and I know you didn't.
this was just the logistics. We have you just for a short while before we move on to the broader panel. Thank you so much both for accepting our invitation to join. And before we move to hot takes, I wanted to ask, how is life? Because you've both made tremendous transformations. Michał, you've left academia and think tank world, joined government. You, ambassador, you left government, and you joined back the private sector, and the world started falling apart. Maybe it's all your fault. So I just wanted to honestly first ask about the perspectives you're coming in with to this Congress, to this event, to these discussions, as now you have you've been witnessing that transformation from two very different angles. And if I could start with you, Ambassador, and then move on to Michał. Thank you.
Marta, thank you so much. And you have also made a transition as the new president of AmCham, the first female president of AmCham, new generation leader of AmCham. And I can tell you, as an American of Polish background, these two folks and other young people going into leadership in Poland are what give me great optimism for the future, because that is the power of Poland, its people. Whether Deputy Minister Michał Baranowski, one of the most brilliant young Poles I had a chance to work with as ambassador here, or Marta Poślad, an absolutely amazing force of nature representing Google. I was so pleased to introduce you to our Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, when you accepted the award for corporate excellence for Google. This is the power of Poland. So no matter what curveball is thrown at Poland, Poland is resilient because of these folks and others that you see all over Poland. How is it different? Let me report to you. From the public sector, from the government role, Poland looks strong. Poland had a reactive mobilization during the Biden administration to face the challenges of Ukraine. Let me tell you, from the private sector, Poland looks stronger. Whether it's Uber, or British American Tobacco, or Pepsi, or other companies I see in this room, this country is booming locally and globally. Locally, the scaling of small companies to bigger companies to bigger companies is amazing. And the international interest from major multinational firms from around the world in Poland is unbelievable. I am now 60 years old. I will admit it now. I'm now 60 years old. In my lifetime, I have not seen an economic moment like I see in Poland in 2025. For this American of Polish background, Poland is an amazing economic miracle.
Thanks so much, Ambassador. And Michał, the same question to you on the transition before we move into more substantial questions about where we are today.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, it's wonderful to be on a panel of friends of AmCham, and big thanks, Marta, for having us here, for having me here, and wonderful to share stage with good friend, Mark. We have switched, so to say, you were still ambassador when I was just joining the government, but there was not enough overlap. I wish there was more time where we could work together. But again, huge congrats, Marta, to you. And I had a chance to join you in one of my first public events and opening breakfast, I think, for AmCham. And it seems like it's been a year ago, but I think it's been 2 months. This has been, so answering your question, this has been most fascinating, but also the longest 3.5 months of my life. It's joining just in the beginning of Polish EU presidency of the EU Council, where I'm very much in the engine room with few other colleagues who are here at the Congress, and being responsible for international trade. Looking a little bit to you, Mark, in some ways you can tell that there are tensions, that we are working very hard between Europe and our main economic partner, United States. We are very closely coordinating this with other member states and with the European Commission, but it's basically sometimes it feels like it's, well, the presidency gives a special little window to look deeply into the working of not only our government, but the EU Council. So Maros Šefčovič and I spent a lot of time together, sometimes get on the phones at 10 p.m. as it was when President Trump decided to actually pause the tariffs vis-a-vis EU. But it's a long way of saying it's been fascinating time, a very steep learning curve, as they say, but a great one. Great time. Highly recommend for other think tankers to join the government and then hopefully eventually also leave. Not anytime soon, but it's intense.
The goal of our short fireside is to set the scene for discussions where businesses will join, and I think we can settle on 2 points. One, definitely Poland has an economic momentum. Secondly, this is indeed an interesting time, which I'm sure, Michał, you have to be very diplomatic about, but I can probably say it's also a difficult time full of concerns and unpredictabilities. And this takes me to where this economic success comes from. At AmCham, we strongly believe that the Polish economic success is also partially fueled by the power and the significance of the U.S. investment, which also brings security and so on and so forth. And let's face it, in the past few months, we've been reviewing. Poland has been reviewing the partnerships. Today, at the start of the conference, the mayor of Katowice suggested that given the tension, the transatlantic tensions, it's for looking into Middle East and China as new sources of partnership and of foreign investment. And while I personally believe, while chairing AmCham, of course, there needs to be a global map, I'm also concerned about the instability of our commitments and how often we very quickly hear that, after what is a short presidency for now and a short-lived administration for now, we very quickly move on to looking into other directions. So I wanted to ask about your view, whether the velocity of this process to start considering directions that we previously didn't consider, also for value-based reasons. And what's your hot take? What's your reaction to not prioritizing U.S. investment in the recent weeks to the extent we were used to? And maybe for this one, we're going to start with the minister and move on to EU ambassador.
This is the one difference also. One has to be much more diplomatic than in the think tank world. Look, I would say our transatlantic relationship is the most important, most robust, most valuable relationship, both for the American people and Europeans. It's by far more extensive deeper than US relations with China, than our relation with China. We need to figure out how to make this work and how to keep it productive. Right now, we are in a moment where, fortunately, we have a pause that can be used well for negotiations. I do have to admit, and I think this is pretty open, so that I wish we were doing better when it comes to the negotiations. There is a very clear unity on the European side, unity that I witnessed myself. I had a great privilege of chairing the Council of Trade and Foreign Ministers 5 days after the so-called, well, the day that was called by President Trump the Liberation Day. So when we came together as Europeans to say what are we going to do about the move from the US, we saw great unity, great focus on finding an agreement with the United States, but also preparing for Plan B if it doesn't work out, but not thinking about switching from our main partner. We will diversify our trade markets. We will look much deeper into completing the single market. That's Europe's superpower, and there is much more that we can do. But it's really, from the people in this room, from the members of AmCham, I think the key thing is that we match the willingness of deeper conversations that I truly see in Europe to the openness to these negotiations on the other side of the Atlantic. And that's where I think we need to get to in the next, 77 days or something like this that we have left. Thanks.
Let me follow up from Michał and say the following. Regardless of who one supported in the American election, we want the American president to succeed. We don't want America's engagement with the world to be chaotic or hiccupy, going from problem to problem, but instead based on a blueprint about what America wants to do with the world and what it expects from the world as it does that, to lead with kind of a statement of purpose and optimism. And I think it's important for, in this case, the Poles, to be able to collaborate well with the Americans and also to be able to say that. Poland is a fundamentally important ally in terms of the stabilization of this region. Not just the support of the Ukrainians. The stabilization of 14 countries in Central Europe has a lot to do with the economic anchor that Poland provides today. And it's a remarkable role that Poland has assumed because of its own success. And I think that, frankly, the Polish government needs to do all it can to communicate as a respectful ally and friend, not just to the American government, which is vast. Your Ministry of Foreign Affairs is 7,000 people. Our State Department is 70,000 people. So the American government is vast, but foreign policy is very vertically integrated. The decisions are made at the tippy top, and it's important to be able to communicate to that tippy top what you expect as an ally and as a friend as you do your part. If there ever was a time to do that, that time is now, when centrally important decisions about this part of the world are being made by President Trump and just a very few other top leaders in the world.
Thank you so much. That's a great advice. And going back to Minister Baranowski, when you say we, do we say we Poland? Do we say we the European Union? Because I think a lot of ecosystem get caught in this problem. Giorgia Meloni just visited Washington the other week, and we know there are some concerns to her saying we, not necessarily making clear what stood behind it, because I entirely agree with Ambassador Brzezinski that Poland, using the new vocabulary, has different cards to play than others in the line.
when I say we, I definitely mean both, Polish and European. You know, this on top of, first of all, there is no, especially in the context of economic interest, there is no discrepancy between Polish economic interest and European economic interest. You would have to really dig deeper. We know where the differences are, but for the most part, they are indistinguishable. We are also happen to be in the middle of the Polish presidency of the EU Council. This is the tie of the Polish presidency. This is the plaque of the presidency. We are pretty well focused on making sure that this 6 months works really well in terms of Poland keeping the Union together in perhaps very tricky moment. But of course we are talking with the American administration as various European national governments, but with a great degree of cooperation and coordination. So today, or yesterday, I think today as well, but it was yesterday, I hope this is all being reported, but Minister Domański was in Washington. I don't know exactly, so this is the difference. Now I'm trying to figure out what is said in public because I had a conversation with him before he went to Washington, but the idea was very much to encourage the conversations that we need to have as Europe to the US, as much as Poland to the US, but not in order to find separate deals, but to find the language that that Ambassador Brzezinski talks about, where Poland has a special place. We are a very good ally of the United States because we recognize not only this alliance, but we are also the responsible allies. And we have been a responsible allies in every category for a very long time. So, of course, we'll be using this for the benefit of Polish interests, but that, again, are very much intertwined with the European interests.
Can I just follow up on that? Here's an idea for you, and you heard it at EKG in April in Katowice. The 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations is coming up in June, in July. Poland was one of the first countries to sign that UN charter. The president, it would be good to me as an American citizen if President Trump gave a statement, of purpose and optimism regarding America's role in the world and what he expects others to do as he pursues certain goals. I can't think of a better moment for an American president to speak to the world than on the 80th anniversary of the founding of the UN. It doesn't mean you have to call for exactly what was called for 80 years ago. But the world is thirsting. The world is thirsting for a sense of direction, a kind of a doctrine from the Americans. They're waiting to hear it. And it would be good if the Poles, as one of the founding members, one of the founding signers of that UN charter, called for that. I think it would be heard. Thank you.
And I think everyone in this room is because they would sign on to this idea. And I think, look, the truth is it's very difficult to be a transatlanticist nowadays. And as that goes against the mainstream public debate, but I think this makes it even more important to be a transatlanticist today. And a question to you, Ambassador, in that respect. You must be now advising businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. I saw many Polish government officials also struggling with an ability to defend the interest and attachment to the US nowadays. But when you work with businesses, what advice do you give your partners in how to remain faith in durability and the factor X of Poland-US relationship?
Do you know what role I find myself, Marta, playing now between American companies looking closely at Poland and Polish successful companies and successful individuals looking at the world? I serve very much as a translator especially with regard to the miracle of Poland. Look at this place, look at this conference, this remarkable conference in all the booths, and the American companies that have set up here, and the Polish companies like UNIMOT or Pelion and others, who have literally a rags to riches story. The founder of UNIMOT started a fuel company by driving with his brother in a van across this country, delivering fuel can by can. Now it's a billion zloty company. The founder of Pelion, a pharmaceutical company, started the company when he was delivering pharmaceuticals for his mother-in-law, who was a pharmacist. And now Pelion is doing acquisitions elsewhere. Amazing stories. And Poles, if I may say this, Poles are sometimes very reticent to tell a great story about their business community. You have unbelievable stories. And America under President Trump is about business. It's about these remarkable success stories that others want to attach themselves to. That is the power of this country in 2025. And I'm a storyteller, and I'm happy to tell that story, but the Polish originators of those stories are much better than me in doing that.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. But and what do you say to the partners in Poland? Why should they continue to trust the strength of the transatlantic relationship? I know why. I represent a proud U.S. business and over 400 companies. But I'm just very curious. How do you exactly speak to Polish companies and your governmental partners here about the durability of the relationship? That was meant to be a Q&A, Ambassador. We're trying to put you on the spot,
sure.
and then we're going to wrap up with Minister Baranowski.
And I will say, I don't have to spend much time convincing people that America is the world's only superpower with vast, vast, vast resources that can be deployed in any direction with a vast economy, 340 million people. It takes 6 hours to fly across America. If you can bring your business to America, or if you can bring American business to Poland, you're doing something. Today, business is the essence of the relationship because business is so prominently a priority for the current American president. So if a Polish energy company working on LNG contracts to deliver LNG from America to Poland is doing something for the bilateral relationship. Translate that into so many different ways. And it is a country with a firm legal basis for contracts, and it is a safe place to do business with tremendous financing potential. The awesome thing for people with a connection to Poland, whether you are a Polish American or a Pole with family in America, is that the bridge between these two countries is getting nearer and nearer in terms of working together and being able to build a business. I am seeing that firsthand. I can report to you, I am seeing that absolutely, massively firsthand all across this country. The American-Polish relationship is big time open for business.
Michał, how would you respond to this? Because you must be, it must be difficult to be a transatlanticist in a government today. Is that the same category of arguments you use when you defend your positions, or are there other points of reference that you benefit from?
Well, first of all, this government is full of transatlanticists. And as is this room, we can point to many research and public opinion polls that shows that our country is full of Atlanticists. It's a peculiar moment. It's true, not in Polish-U.S. relations, but in a way that we are defining again a deal, transatlantic deal, both when it comes to security and defense, and this is where Europe is very much standing up, perhaps standing up faster on its own 2 feet than it would be without President Trump gently nudging us in this direction, and perhaps a new agreement when it comes to our economic cooperation. And what Europe, with the support of Poland, put on the table is also 0 for 0 agreement in industrial goods and others. So, I do cross my fingers and work every day to make sure that what comes out from this moment of pause and negotiations is something that is as close to the open market transatlantically as we can, to realize the vision that Mark talked about. It's, to sum up, it actually is not difficult to be an Atlanticist in Polish government, nor even in the EU format. We are just, I think, learning some lessons and that lead to a greater responsibility being taken over and taken on by Europeans that we have not fully consumed or digested when in all the previous times when we had similar conversations. And this is where Poland is very much a leader, both when it comes to what we need to do in Europe in security, in defense, and economic competitiveness. Prime Minister Tusk is not only the one who leads the government and that spends 5% on defense, it's also a country that is the fastest growing economy in the EU. And people in other countries are looking to us also in this context. Thanks.
And while the Biden administration, Marta, did not continue, one of the dimensions of the American-Polish relationship that has continued is it's the private sector role in supporting some of the challenges while building on the opportunities in Poland. I mean, the Ukraine refugee context in Poland is exhibit A of how the private sector could step in, whether Amazon or Hilton Hotels or Google or Uber. Take Uber. Uber trained so many female drivers from Ukraine who are driving around Poland right now. The winner of Uber Dreams is a Ukrainian woman who now lives in Lublin. She supports 5 children as an Uber driver. Those are the awesome human interest stories that will be the genesis for the rebuilding of Ukraine, which will happen, I think, very soon, led by President Trump, hopefully brokered between Presidents Zelensky and Putin, and Poland will have an unbelievably critical role in that rebuilding.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I know we need to send you off to spread the good word and evangelize at other panels. Thank you so much for joining us.